Hello, my name is Memuna Eti Santos and this is a presentation for English Final Summative. Today we'll discuss about Hamlet, the tragedy of Hamlet, Prince of Denmark. It is a play written by William Shakespeare between the time 1915 and 1601. The play opens on a dark night where a ghost is seen walking the ramparts of Elsinore Castle. The ghost is first discovered by a pair of watchmen, then by Horatio, a scholar who directly made the resemblance between the ghost and the deceased king. When the watchmen and Horatio bring Hamlet to see the ghost directly speaks to Hamlet, declaring that he was murdered by King Claudius and he is indeed his father's ghost. The ghost orders Prince Hamlet to seek revenge on the man who usurped the throne and marries his wife. Prince Hamlet devotes himself in avenging his father's death, but because he is thoughtful and contemplating by nature, he delays entering into a deep melancholy and madness. King Claudius and the queen worry about Hamlet's erratic behavior. They attempt to discover the cause of such behavior by employing Hamlet's old friend to watch him. When Polonius, the pompous Lord Chamberlain, suggests that Hamlet may be mad in love with his daughter Ophelia, the King Claudius agrees to spy on Hamlet's conversation with the girl. Although Hamlet actually seems mad, he does not seem to love Ophelia since he orders Ophelia to join the nunnery, and he declares that he wishes marriages should be banned. When the moment of murder was enacted during the performance, King Claudius leaps on his feet and leaves the room. Hamlet and Horatio agree that this is a proof that he is guilty. When Hamlet goes to kill King Claudius, he found him praying, since he believes that when he will kill King Claudius, he will go to heaven. He decided no, this will be an inadequate revenge, so he waits. In Gertrude's chamber, Hamlet is discussing with his mother, while Polonius were hiding behind the tapestry. On hearing the noise behind the tapestry, Hamlet draws his sword and stabs through the tapestry, thereby killing Polonius. For this reason, he is immediately dispatched to England with Guildenstern and Rosencrantz. However, the king's plan is more than banishment, since he gives sealed orders to England so that on the arrival of Hamlet, he should be put to death. In the aftermath of her father's death, Ophelia goes mad with grief and drowns in the river. Polonius' son, Laertes, who was staying in France, returned to Denmark in rage. King Claudius and Horatio received letter from Hamlet indicating that the prince is returning back to Denmark after being attacked by pirates on his way to England. King Claudius then concocted a plan using Laertes to kill Hamlet in revenge. Laertes and Hamlet will fence and Laertes' blade will be poisoned. As a backup plan, King Claudius poisoned a goblet of wine so that in the case where Hamlet wins, he will offer him the drink. The sword fighting begins and Hamlet scores first, but declines to drink from the king's goblet. Instead, Gertrude takes a drink from the poisoned wine and is swiftly killed by the poison. Laertes succeeds in wounding Hamlet, but Hamlet does not die immediately of the poison. First, Laertes is caught by his own blade, and after revealing to Hamlet that King Claudius is responsible for the queen's death, he died from his own poisoned blade. Hamlet then stabbed King Claudius with a poisoned sword, then forced him to drink the rest of the poisoned wine. King Claudius dies and Hamlet dies immediately after achieving his revenge. Now we talk about the analysis of the literary device in Hamlet. There are many literary devices in Hamlet, such as assonance, alliteration, consonance, allegory, metaphor, simile. Yes. There is also imagery. Imagery is to use visually descriptive statement. An example is in At First in One, mad as they see and win, when both contain which is the mightier. Riyashiti also make use of metaphor in his play. An example of a metaphor is in Actress in One. The fair Ophelia, in thy orisons, be all my sins remembered. Here, Hamlet compared Ophelia with a Cretan divine creature. The play also shows good use of rhetorical questions at several places of the play. An example is in Actress in 4. How now? A rat? Another literary device is simile. An example is in At Once in One, in the same figure like the king that is dead. Here we are comparing the figure with the king that is dead. The play also shows memorable soliloquy such as to be or not to be in Actress in One. This soliloquy was made by Hamlet. This was to shed light on the mentality or the conflict of his character. In Hamlet, there are many controversies which arise from the text, and one of them is feminism. Gertrude can be viewed as an epitome of lesser and negative stereotypes of women shaped by the patriarchal values and society of the Shakespearean time. She is presented in the play as an incestuous woman who only seeks for affection. Her act of marrying her brother-in-law after the death of her husband is condemned by Hamlet as committing incest. She could be considered as a voiceless and silenced female because she does not have many lines in the play. Therefore, she depends on male characters such as Claudius, the Ghost, and Hamlet to shape and describe her behavior. The patriarchal society of the Western culture held negative implications on women. In this way, the freedom of women to express themselves is not considered by the men. The object Ophelia, which is the object of Hamlet's desire, is also denied a voice. She is portrayed as an insignificant minor character, mainly created as an instrument to better represent Hamlet. Male character in the play shows disrespect to Ophelia. Male characters such as Polonius, her father, and Hamlet. An example is when Polonius uses Ophelia as an instrument to discover if Hamlet is really mad or it's just his love for Ophelia who makes him behave this way. The next literary criticism is Marxism. Marxism is best embodied by King Claudius, who usurped the throne from old Hamlet, thereby going from the lower class to the upper class as he became the king. An example of Marxism is when Claudius employs Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, the working class, to spy on Hamlet in order to know the cause of his anger and madness. As a comparison, the writers of Hamlet and the War, William Shakespeare and Timothy Finley respectively, transformed their main character, which was supposed to be a powerful prince or a war hero, into a tragedy hero. Now we talk about the themes in Hamlet. Among the main ideas in the play, there is the impossibility of certainty, which is characterized by the revenge, which takes time in coming because Hamlet really wanted to know what he is actually doing. There is also the misery of death. Hamlet is obsessed with the idea of death and looks at death from different perspectives. The idea of death is related and associated with the theme of spirituality and truth. This is closely related with the theme of justice and revenge. The question of his own suicide also worries Hamlet as he contemplates if suicide is a morally and legitimate manner to quit this unbearable and painful world. His misery is such that he wishes to commit suicide, but he is afraid that if he commits suicide, he will be damned to hell. Furthermore, we have the theme of power, as at the early stages of the play, we explore the transfer of power from a ruler to the next. Moreover, there is the theme of incest. This is shown by the marriage of the new king and his brother's wife. There is also the theme of misogyny, as Hamlet is shattered by the decision of his mother to marry directly after the death of her husband. After, Hamlet becomes very cynical about human engineering. This is shown in his interaction with Ophelia and Gertrude. An example is he tells Ophelia to go to the nunnery, thereby not experiencing the corruption of sexuality. There is also the theme of madness. An example is where Hamlet gets mad just to hide his plan against Claudius. Another example is Ophelia, who gets mad, really mad, due to her father's death caused by the one she loved, Hamlet. Symbolism is an artistic and poetic expression using figurative languages and indirect ideas to express emotions and state of mind. There are many symbols in Hamlet, such as flowers, skull, weather, mousetrap, poison, fencing sword, and ghost. The appearance of the ghost of old Hamlet in the very first scene of the play symbolizes that tough times are coming ahead. The ghost also symbolizes the foreshadow of the upcoming chaos in Denmark as Hamlet prepares his revenge against Claudius. Fencing swords are used in the final scene during the duel between Hamlet and Laertes. Therefore, the fencing swords symbolize violence and death. Poison is a recurring symbol which appears at various scenes in the play. It appears especially when the ghosts first appear. The ghost explains to young Hamlet how poison is poured into his ear. Therefore, poison symbolizes betrayal, deception, and treachery. Poison is significant because it exposes Claudius' evil character.